Hey there. Ever get stuck trying to explain where something is? Those pesky prepositions? You know, is it in the building or at the building? All right. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about the most common prepositions on location. Okay. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which of these prepositions to use every single time. So let's get to it. All right, this first group is in, on, at. Now, these three prepositions are probably the ones you use most often in English, but each one has a specific job. Let me show you exactly how to use them. Well, in, you use that when something is surrounded or enclosed by a space or area. So here's an example. The marketing team works in the south wing of our building. Okay. Or I keep my passport in the top drawer of my desk. Okay. So when you use that, you want to think of something that is surrounded, like a fish in water. So if something is enclosed or surrounded, you want to use the preposition in. For on, that is used when something is touching the surface of or is supported by something else. All right. So here's an example. The presentation schedule is on the bulletin board. The schedule is on the bulletin board. Another example, your keys are on the kitchen table. So if something is touching, it is being supported by that surface. And in that case, your keys are being supported by that table. All right, now we're arriving at. So we use at to indicate a specific point or a specific location, especially for an event or for a destination. So for example, we'll meet at the conference room, okay? Or I'll wait for you at the bus stop. Okay, you can point to it at the conference room, at the bus stop, at. So you can think of that as a specific point on a map or a specific spot on a map. You're gathering there. Now let's look at these prepositions. Under, over, above, and below. Okay, they're very similar. These describe vertical positions, and they help us explain when things are higher or lower than other things. So for under, it's directly beneath something, often with little or no space between. It's like right underneath it. Okay, this piece of paper is under this other piece of paper. They're stacked together, it's right underneath it. So for an example, the signed contract is under these reports. Or the dog is sleeping under the desk. All right. He's right underneath the desk. So under means there's direct coverage above. Okay. So think of an umbrella over your head. You are under the umbrella. So for the word over, that's directly above something, over. And this often implies coverage or movement across the top of something. Okay, so for example, the security camera is mounted over the entrance, or she held the umbrella over her head. All right, over. So over often suggests protecting or covering something that is below it. Now let's talk about above. So that is higher than something else, but not necessarily directly above it. Okay. So our office is above the coffee shop. Okay. It could mean that the coffee shop is on this level, and then there's another floor and another floor. So maybe your office is like 2 floors up, but it's above the coffee shop. Here's another example. The temperature is above freezing today. All right. So above just means that something is higher in position, but not necessarily covering, like the word over. So now let's move over to below. So below means that it's lower than something else, but it's not necessarily directly beneath it. All right. So for example, the storage room is below the main office. All right. Or the hiking trail is below the lookout point. So below is the opposite of above. Okay. Lower, but not necessarily covered. This is the third group. And this is between and among. Okay. Now, these two prepositions help us describe positions with multiple things. Okay. But they're used differently. So let me show you how we use them. Between. Okay. So in the space separating two items, people, or places. So the brown marker is between the green marker and the pink marker. Okay. My desk is between the printer and the window, or the library is between the bank and the post office. Okay. Something like that. So remember, between is always for at least two things. It's between. Okay. Among means that something is surrounded by or in the middle of three or more things. Among. Okay, so here's an example. The important email is among these messages. You've got a lot of messages, but you're looking for one email among all of the messages. All right, here's another example. The house is hidden among the trees. All right, lots of trees, and the house is hidden among those trees. So if there are three or more things, you use among. I forget that one sometimes. But yes, if you have a lot of things, you want to use the word among. All right, let's move over to our next group. And these are the words next to, beside, and alongside. Okay, now these three prepositions all show that things are side by side, but they're used in slightly different ways. So let's talk about it. Next to means immediately adjacent to something else. Okay, there's nothing in between it. They're right beside each other. So here's an example. The copier is next to the supply cabinet. Or another example, park your car next to mine. That means the cars are right beside each other, okay? So next to is the most common and casual way to say that things are right beside each other. Okay, so now the word beside. That means at the side of something or someone. Okay, so this is a little more formal than next to. So here's an example. Please have a seat beside Mr. Johnson, right? You would say that in a meeting. Or the lamp is beside the sofa. All right. So alongside means that it's next to and parallel with something. Parallel. Okay. Often implying similar direction or purpose. Okay, you're going in the same line, or like this, similar and parallel. So for example, our team works alongside the marketing department. So here's your team, and you do similar things and similar projects with the marketing department. You work side by side, okay? And another example could be that the path runs alongside the river, okay? So alongside often suggests cooperation, or parallel movement. All right, now you know exactly when to use each of these very common prepositions. Remember, in is for enclosed spaces, on is for surfaces, and at is for specific points and places. So practice using these prepositions in your conversations this week. If this video helped you understand prepositions better, and I hope it did, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. So next week, I'm going to do a part 2, and we're going to cover more advanced prepositions, all right? Drop a comment below with prepositions you find most challenging. All right, I'll see you in the next video.